5-day challenge, and I want to tell you that there were certain mistakes that I was making in my life that kept me stuck. I had dreams, I had ideas, but for some reason I could not make those things happen. And I kept repeating these mistakes day after day, month after month, year after year. And before I knew it, the years were going by and I was making these same mistakes. And I was watching other people around me making the same mistakes, hoping, wishing one day things would change. And then I had a milestone birthday. And that's when the realization came. Life was passing me by. And if I didn't do something different, I was going to wake up one day without the ability to ever fulfill these dreams. When I discovered these mistakes that I was making, it was up to me to change course. And that's what I did. And that's why I created the Passport to Freedom 5-Day Challenge, where we walk you step by step through the Freedom Blueprint so you can stop making these same mistakes. The mistakes that keep us stuck. The mistakes that keep us overthinking, overanalyzing, which leads to analysis paralysis. So join me for 5 days where I show you what I did, how I maintain it, and now I live an amazing life where I've been able to travel the world, I've been able to speak on some of the biggest stages, and I've taken thousands of people all over the world once I stopped making those mistakes. I'm going to share them with you so you can break free and claim your passport to freedom. So 5 days, you can be a part of our general session, or you can be a part of our VIP session with the special Q&A, and you get to keep all of the replays. So click the link and join the session and claim your passport to freedom. I'll see you in the challenge. Whoa. All right. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Welcome. As we get ready for the big Passport to Freedom Challenge is coming up November 3rd through the 7th, 2025. And we are doing previews of what's to come. And as you saw me talking in the clip just now, I talked about how I went from being stuck. There were certain mistakes I was making. All of that was going on. And then next thing you know, I got plugged in, got plugged into reality and decided to make some changes. And before I get started, I'm going to share with you today just a little bit why comfort zones are killing your dreams and how to break free. And I'm going to, y'all mind if I just go in just a little bit on this? Just a little bit. All right. So this is a Passport to Freedom Challenge preview. This is not the challenge. The challenge is coming up November 3rd through the 7th, 2025. And we're going to spend 5 days helping you to reset, reboot, elevate, and ultimately live. That's the deal. So be sure to follow and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram for updates. And you'll be able to get more details on everything else that we have going on. But I want to talk about this challenge because it's coming up. It's needed. I've spent the past 7 years traveling. And the previous years of my life, I was kind of doing the routine. I was in the DMV, living the life. I mean, very successful at that. So there's no, not looking down on that or anything, but just saying that there's more to life than paying bills, more to life than just kind of being on that grind. And so when I started traveling, it unlocked something. Now, travel is not for everybody. So we want to make that clear. You know, that's one pathway to your passport to freedom. But one thing I do know is that our comfort zone, and I was in a comfort zone living in DC and DC, Maryland, and Virginia in the US, and just kind of living, doing the same thing over and over. And so as a result of that, it was almost like I woke up one day and I said, wait a minute, now you mean to tell me that all I'm going to do is this same routine, just every day driving the same roads, going to the same restaurants, counting the same clock to the end of the day, and then, you know, eating the same meals and then doing the same. I mean, it was just like this same thing. It was a comfort zone that I found myself in. It became comfortable. And a lot of us get in comfortable situations, whether it's comfortable on the job, you get a comfortable check, you get a comfortable relationship. And so there you are, you're staying with someone, you know, that's not really the person you want to be with, but you just stay in there because it's comfortable. That's a comfort zone. You know that there's more in you than that particular job, but it's a check. So let me just sit my hind parts down and just, you know, hunker down and just do what I need to do. I better not get to complaining too much, because if I lose this, then what am I going to do? So what that does, that comfort zone in many instances becomes a place of paralysis. And a lot of times fear fuels a comfort zone. And so when you're in that space, and we're going to talk about this in the challenge even more, when you're in that space, it's you're just kind of in that routine. And then you're looking at everybody else kind of in that routine, kind of doing the same thing, kind of floating, kind of living, kind of, just doing the thing. But then internally, we have these ideas. Um Hey, what's going on, Joseph? Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good to see everybody. I'm looking over here in the chat. All right. Hey, what's going on, Minister Deborah Davis? How you doing? All right. So what ends up happening is you find yourself in this space, in this routine. And I'm telling you, success. You can be successful and be in this place. This is not a place where people are destitute and they're, just they're lost, if you will. A lot of them are highly accomplished, but then this comfort zone kicks in. And I really want to help us hone in on that. And that's what we're going to talk about in the challenge, the danger of the comfort zone. And I've heard so many people, I'm in the DC area. So a lot of people in the DC area, they'll say, okay, I like my government job. I'm not going to do anything outside of that because it's comfortable until as of late. And then that's when some realities kicked in. And so it was like that thing I would hear, the culture I was in. I got my government job. I'm a GS 13, I'm a 14, I'm a SCS, I'm all these different things. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. But I wonder if in some ways that level of comfort might be robbing them from a level of freedom. And so that's what happened in my case. I wasn't working for the government. I was working on a lot of different ventures. And the culture I was in, everyone was kind of talking the same, kind of talking the same kind of talk. And nobody was traveling. If they were going to the Caribbean, maybe they might go down to Central America, they might go to Mexico. They might that was really about the extent of it. They might hop over to London. But when we started talking about places like Ghana or Tanzania or places like that, there weren't a whole lot of people talking about that. So they're not saying that that means anything other than the fact that the social network that I was in was just kind of comfortable doing the same thing, watching the same football games, watching the same teams, having the same conversations, just kind of going through that same motion. And so I had a big birthday, and when that big birthday kicked in, there was a realization I had to come to. I had to say, all right, what am I going to do with the next chapter of my life? Am I going to go and stay doing this same routine? Or am I going to look to do something bold, something different, something that really challenges me and takes me outside of the comfort zone? And so traveling was that thing for me because I didn't like to travel. I didn't like to get on planes. I didn't like to go to places or be around environments that were unfamiliar. But how about this? The very thing that I was not comfortable doing was the very thing that was going to lead to the most impactful breakthrough of my existence. That's the thing. And that's one of the sometimes what fear will do, it'll mask itself as comfort, or comfort will mask itself as fear. You got a couple different ways that you can look at this. So I learned from that the danger zone for me was when I got too comfortable. And not that you would stress yourself out all the time, but when I got too comfortable, too complacent, too chill, that's when I knew I stopped growing. Now, who knew? Who knew? I didn't know that on the other side of the comfort zone was going to be the life I always dreamed about. Now, there were some mistakes I was making in that journey. We'll talk about it in the challenge, the mistakes that I was making. And as I was making these mistakes, I didn't even realize I was making the mistakes because everybody else was making the same mistakes and everybody else was having the same conversation. So I had to go in a completely different direction. I had to start talking to a different group of people who overcame those mistakes. And then that's when life opened up. And when life opened up, it was, oh, wow. Now I had to understand from a generational standpoint, generationally, people who came from where I came from, they didn't understand this level of living because many of them didn't travel or many of them didn't get outside of their comfort zone because they weren't encouraged to. But think about the ideas. I remember a speaker once, he said, the place where all the best ideas. If you want to go to a cemetery, you can see where so many great ideas have been buried because so many people die full instead of dying empty. And so they die with the ideas and with the thoughts and the books and the business ventures and the whatever it is, whatever those things are, that's what they pass away with. And so they leave it there. And so at that point, this is what I had to make a decision. I said, okay, I can stick to the routine. I can stick to what feels comfortable, or I can take the bold step to do something completely different. And when I tell you, it was time for me to take that bold step, it seemed like everything came in to try to make sure I couldn't take that step. It seemed like every person that I thought would, kind of want to, hey man, that's a good thing. They were kind of mocking me along the way, like, "Oh man, you must be going through something. What's wrong? You going through a midlife crisis? What's happening with you? You need to come on back and sit down." And so I was like, "Wow!" And I started hearing the level of, let me choose my words carefully here, the level of lack of exposure from the social network that I was in because I heard it too much. And I said, "Well, I'm trying to." I said, "Well, I think I want to go to Africa." "I am trying to go to Africa." "What you going to Africa for? What's over there?" And I was like, "Wow, I didn't realize that it was that deep." Now if I said I was going to Paris, "Oh, go ahead, do tell, have a great time, bonjour, merci, oui, oui." That would have been the case. But why you want to go to Africa? What's over there? And I said, "Wow." And I got on that plane. Everything tried to prevent me from getting on the plane to go to Ghana back in 2018, almost 7 years ago now, back November 2018. And it was that type of opposition, the social opposition, the internal opposition, because I was afraid. I'd heard all the different things about going to Africa. Africa, right? Not which country in Africa, but just Africa, period. And it was something that I had to confront. We'll talk about it in the challenge. And when I confronted it, that's when the breakthrough came. And all of the different confrontations that came along the way is when I found that thing. And okay, hey, Minister Deborah, I see your goal is to fill your passport. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I went from that to having 3 different passports, 3 different countries. So I feel you. I feel you 100%. To Sierra Leone, this is Ghana, this is the US, and going through all the different pages, stamps, stamps, stamps. The person who had no interest in traveling, stamps all the way through the passport. And then not just that passport, but this passport too. Stamps, stamps, stamps. This Sierra Leone passport. I just got my Ghana passport. Stamps all the way through here. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the breakthrough right here, both of these. So thank you for that reminder, Minister Deborah. It's one of the things that when you start to go and break free, there's another side. That's all I'm telling you. The comfort zone. Let me spend a little moment on the depth of the discomfort of climbing out of it. And that's why this challenge is so important. That's why I'm giving you a preview. All through the month of October, I'm going to be giving you these types of previews. So by the time we get to November, I will tell you by November 7th, the trajectory of someone's life is going to change so drastically that they will look at that. It really marks the 7th year that I took that trip, because I went on November 2nd, 2018. And so we're starting this on November the 3rd, 2025. By the time that week is over, those 5 days are over, someone is going to begin the journey and marching towards a new chapter and a new phase in their life. And I can tell you, over the past 7 years, of confronting the discomforts that came, and I was honing in on the discomforts. Confronting those discomforts is where the strength came in. Confronting those discomforts is when the maturation process was able to really get cranked up, because again, in the comfort zone, it's kind of hard to do a lot of maturing in the comfort zone because everything's comfortable. When you're uncomfortable and you're forced to face mindset, you're forced to face internal thoughts, external thoughts, things that are in front of you that you thought that you couldn't overcome, but you could overcome, and you're forced to overcome it, or else you're going to be stuck. That's when you build and meet that new person and those new people. I didn't know this Jay in November 2018. I didn't know him. I knew a version. I knew AJ. I didn't know this Jay today, who's been since then had never been to the continent of Africa, but been to 25 different African countries. I did that within 4 years, and then have taken more than 2,000 people around the world in the past 4 years. Now, nobody was thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about taking people around the world when I first took that trip. But it was as I learned more about stepping outside of the comfort zone, I was willing to try more. I was willing my mind was expanding to even think of doing things on a different level. And so there are ideas that people have buried because one, the comfort zone is there, the fear zone is there, the familiarity is there, maybe the culture of the mindset of the people that they're around are there. And it's a challenge to overcome it. But then many of those same people who laughed and mocked me when I started talking about going to Africa have been back to Africa. That's right. They've been to Ghana and other places because they saw the transformation that occurred. Now, this transformation can occur anywhere. It can occur in Japan. It can occur in Uruguay. It can occur in Russia. It can occur anywhere. So it can occur in the U.S. It's when we begin to start marching towards what marching away from the comfort, that's when we discover the freedom. And that's why we talk about the passport to freedom. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to help you to overcome the comfort zone. And I want you to think of yourself. Maybe right now, this is October of 2025. I want you to think, what are you going to look like in October of 2026? Because it's easy for these years to go by quickly. We have another new year that will be upon us. We'll be celebrating New Year's Eve going into 2026. And then we have the hype, the New Year's resolutions are going to be there. And then before you know it, then you have MLK holiday. And then you have President's Day holiday. Wait, no, you have Valentine's Day. So now you're 6 weeks into 2026. And it happened just like that. Now I'm giving you a forecast. So 6 weeks into 2026, everybody's been to the gym and then they've stopped going to the gym. They've done their routine. They've done their New Year fast. They've done all of this stuff. And then now, here we go. Valentine's Day is there. They're trying to reclaim the boo. Maybe an old boo came back around, got a new boo on the scene. That might do its little thing up until March. And so you go into March, then you have, I'm just going through some of the, then you have President's Day. Then you have, depending on when it falls, you have the Resurrection Sunday. Then you have Mother's Day. Then you have Memorial Day. Then you have Father's Day. Then you have 4th of July. Then you get the little lull right there in August where everybody's going on vacation. Oh, here we go. Whoop, whoop, there it is. Labor Day. Now you have Labor Day coming around. Then right after that, you have, well, it's not, I'm not going to call it Columbus Day because, so then you have the October situations going on. Then you move into November, Veterans Day. Next thing you know, you have the holiday called Thanksgiving. Before you know it, here we are back around again at the end of the year, Christmas time, New Year's Eve, and it all went by just like that. 2017, my birthday is at the end of the year. It's a December birthday. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I cannot go through 2018 doing the same thing. I can't do it. I can't do the same thing. And so what I decided for 2018, I was going to do something drastic. I became a part of a community of people who were thinking differently and doing differently and moving. Now, this was all outside of the comfort zone because sometimes you get in that routine. So doing something different, I had to spend some money to get into this particular community. I wasn't used to spending money to get into communities. Everything I was around was kind of like, hey, everybody just show up and kind of do, but that was part of the problem too. So it was kind of like everybody didn't have an investment. So it's kind of like, well, all right, we're just going to kind of float with the system. So I got involved in the community, really started listening and shifting the way I was thinking. Then because of the shift in the community and the culture that I was in, the ideas started coming. Then before I knew it, I took my first group to Ghana in 2019. We had more than 30 people join us on that first group. A year later, and that was in November of 2019. We were getting ready to go for a big 2020, and then the pandemic happened. So y'all know what happened with that. Shut everything down. But now this is all comfort zone. Please hear what I'm saying. I'm talking to you about comfort zone right now. So the comfort zone that the world was in at that moment was to stay home. So March 2020 comes in. We didn't know what was going on. I was scared to go to the grocery store. So I'm going to the grocery store 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure that, I'm not in there with everybody else and, social spreading and all of that was going on. But I was still, riding my bike and doing, all those different things. And then the world kind of opened up in September. And so took a trip down to Cancun in September. And then I wanted to go back to the continent. And I said, now is the time while the world is shut down for me to lay the foundation for what's to come. I don't know what is to come, but I know now is the time. Now, here's the challenge in the comfort zone. Everybody else in the world was saying stay home. Nobody else was trying to fly. Everybody else was saying, what is wrong with you? Why are you going over to Africa in the middle of this pandemic? Why don't you just stay here in the US where it's safe and, just wait and ride this thing out? And I knew when I started hearing enough of that, I knew it was time for me to go back to the continent. So I went to Tanzania. Went to Tanzania and I saw something very different. So in Tanzania, they weren't wearing any masks. Nobody was getting sick like that. And the majority of the continent was not affected by the pandemic the way much of the Western world was. The places that were affected were places like South Africa, where you had a lot of people coming in from Europe. And then you had Egypt that was heavily affected because you had a lot of people coming in from Europe. So wherever there were a lot of people coming in from Europe and the US, that's when you had the numbers going up. At places that didn't have that, you saw the numbers were drastically different. And you just saw it in the results. And so I'm looking and I'm saying, wait a minute, everybody told me to stay home, but wow, look at this. It was just a different world. Nobody could take that from me. If I stayed at home and listened to what they were telling me on the news, then I would have been thinking that the whole world was affected the same way when the whole world wasn't. So what that started doing was teaching me that everything that I was seeing was not necessarily the most accurate information. And so it's good to go see for myself. That was now another level of courage. Now let me double back real quick. The next breaking through, or before that, another breakthrough in the comfort zone was when I went to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm from DC. We don't have mountains around here like that. We got a few hills every now and then. You might go out to Great Falls and catch a little hill, but that's about it. You might go out to the Shenandoah and get a little mountain, little 3,000-foot mountain or something out that way. But climbing Mount Kilimanjaro was something that was called the comfort zone buster right there. And I wanted to do it because I went to Ghana and discovered how much I didn't know. And I just said, I have to do something different. I have to take responsibility for shaking up my life and doing things differently. So when I went to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, it was the most intense physical activity that I've ever done, probably because I didn't train enough for it. Because I know other people who've done it and they've kind of said, oh, that was tough, but it wasn't, you can do it. I was like, yeah, I did it. But I barely did it. But the fact that I did it, and the lessons that I learned each step of the way, step by step by step, climbing and pushing through the discomfort, the physical discomfort, the mental discomfort, it taught me a valuable lesson. And so that's why this challenge is something I believe will change someone's life, because you're speaking to someone who has put the work in, who has developed the strategies, who lives it every day. Because you can get unstuck, but then there's always something trying to get you restuck. And so, how do you not find yourself getting stuck again? How do you find yourself not going back into that comfort zone? And so, I say this, the comfort zone, if you begin to confront that, and we give you a blueprint and show you how to navigate the different comfort zones, and then you start walking your way towards your dreams. And sometimes when you start thinking about the things that have been placed inside of you, and it might not be what everybody else wants. Everybody else might not be feeling what you're doing, but that thing has been placed inside of you. And I think what a shame it would be for you to spend your last day on this earth and to not fulfill that. Everybody's been given a reason for being here, and everybody's reason is very unique and very different. And we're not cookie cutters. The world is so subjective. We have different lenses. We have different perspectives. We have different environments that we grew up in. And so oftentimes the places that we come from influence where we're going and the people we're supposed to impact. So, and sometimes the experiences are negative. Sometimes they are negative in that moment, but it's what we needed to go through in order to prepare us for our ultimate assignments that we've been given for the period of time that we're here. And I tell everybody, tomorrow's not promised. These are things that I just woke up and realized, oh, man, tomorrow's not promised. Life is moving by quickly. So I remember having several 90-year-old people on our trips. Now, I would have never met these people if I stayed in the comfort zone and the wisdom that I gleaned from Mr. Billy, who was driving me around. He was driving me around Las Vegas at 90 years old. I'm looking at him, I think he's like 96 now, 95, 96. He was driving me around Vegas at 90. I was like, right before the pandemic, I was like, what is this? And he was like, oh, yeah, I still get around. The amazing people that I met along the way. Mr. Freddie Taylor Sr. took him, he and his son Freddie, down to Cuba, and he's been to Egypt with us. And he's just sitting there talking. He's saying, he said, I'm 94 years old and I'm still learning. And then he was dancing down in Cuba, and one of the young ladies came up to him, started dancing with him. And boy, he jumped up on that seat, and he was like, afterwards, he told Freddie, he said, Freddie, did you get a picture of me with that young girl? And I was like, wow. I said, he's still having these experiences into his 90s and 80s. We just had the Canes with us down in Brazil. If I would have stayed in the comfort zone, I wouldn't have that experience with them, and they wouldn't have that experience with me. So I want you to think to yourself, what is your comfort zone stealing from you? Now, sometimes you don't know it until you start confronting it. And sometimes the comfort zone is the very thing that people will encourage. Well, I'm going to encourage you to find the place that you want to be and join us on November 3rd through the 7th. Again, this is a preview of what's to come. I'm going to give you the strategies, the steps. I'm going to talk about the mistakes and really dive into it over those 5 days. We're going to give you the blueprint, and then we're going to give you some action steps, and we're going to watch you soar, because that's the thing. We want you to soar. So get ready. The link is going to be down in the description. So if you're watching it today, this is the preview. But when we release it, if you're watching it later, check the link in the description. So it might not be there today, but again, if you're watching, today is the 2nd of October, 2025. So the link will be posted for you to go ahead and sign up and join the challenge on the 3rd or 4th of October. We'll be coming back every day in some form. Sometimes it'll be live, sometimes it'll be pre-recorded, but we're going to make sure that on these different platforms that you're watching us on, YouTube, Facebook, that you'll be able to make sure that you are part of the challenge. Now, what I want you to do, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, Passport to Purpose, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hey, Isaiah, how you doing? If you please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please go ahead and share this and let people know it's going to be 5 days to elevate, reset, reboot, and live. And we're going to go, and I'm going to give you the secrets, what I did, the steps, and how to avoid the mistakes that many of us are making. So again, thank you for joining me. I just want to spend a little bit of time with you. And so I want you to imagine yourself. I want you to think, what is it going to look like a year from now? Will you be doing the same things a year from now? Or will you have your passport to freedom? Will you be walking in the abilities that you've been given, whatever that is? Or will you go on repeat again, same thing, following year, going through the same thing, going through the same motions, and you'll look up and 10 years have gone by, and you'll say, I woulda, shoulda, coulda, wish I woulda. Well, what we're going to do is now look back in 10 years and say, guess what? I did. Look at my life now. Look at all the people I've been able to meet and inspire and touch and who've inspired me. That's what I want for you. That's what this challenge is all about. Passport to Freedom coming up November 3rd through the 7th, 2025. Stay tuned as more is on the way. So until next time, everybody have a good evening. Take a look at this as we get ready to close out and get ready. We'll see you again tomorrow. Jay Cameron here for the Passport to Freedom 5-Day Challenge. And I want to tell you that there were certain mistakes that I was making in my life that kept me stuck. I had dreams, I had ideas, but for some reason I could not make those things happen. And I kept repeating these mistakes day after day, month after month, year after year. And before I knew it, the years were going by and I was making these same mistakes. And I was watching other people around me making the same mistakes, hoping, wishing one day things would change. And then I had a milestone birthday. And that's when the realization came. Life was passing me by. And if I didn't do something different, I was going to wake up one day without the ability to ever fulfill these dreams. When I discovered these mistakes that I was making, it was up to me to change course. And that's what I did. And that's why I created the Passport to Freedom 5-Day Challenge, where we walk you step by step through the Freedom Blueprint so you can stop making these same mistakes. The mistakes that keep us stuck. The mistakes that keep us overthinking, overanalyzing, which leads to analysis paralysis. So join me for 5 days where I show you what I did, how I did it, how I maintain it, and now I live an amazing life where I've been able to travel the world, I've been able to speak on some of the biggest stages, and I've taken thousands of people all over the world once I stop making those mistakes. I'm going to share them with you so you can break free and claim your passport to freedom. So 5 days, you can be a part of our general session, or you can be a part of our VIP session with the special Q&A, and you get to keep all of the replays. So click the link and join the session and claim your passport to freedom. I'll see you in the challenge.